Jordan, this is the Farm Talk podcast, and more importantly, this is the big game week. Are you ready?
Ooh.
Are you ready?
Listen, there's once a wise person said, if you stay ready, you ain't never got to get ready. I'm always ready for big game weekend, and it's here. Let's go. I'm
It's
ready.
here. It's here. We're ready.
Yes.
This is like basically aside from big game week, we also got some crazy Pac-12 games. It's basically the Pac-12 semifinals for the Pac-12 championship. A couple teams have a chance to clinch their spot in the said Pac-12 championship should they win. We have a lot to get to today, Jordan. So let's flash back to last week first, like we always do. We got to talk about the week prior. What did you take away from Stanford's loss against Utah? They lost by a very large margin. I believe the final score was 42-7.
Yeah.
That one touchdown came in the first quarter. They actually held a lead for quite some time. It looked like it was going to be a weird Pac-12 after dark game for that first quarter. There was a fake punt that made me think that Utah was going to blow them out like right away, and then Stanford stopped them again and then scored, and I was like, okay. I was like, they held them scoreless for that first quarter, and then the onslaught of Utah scoring and rushing attack just was too much to handle and ended up hurting the Cardinal later in the game.
Well, no, I think you make a really good point. You talked about how Stanford started off the game because I think at halftime, and I think you mentioned this, it was 14-7. And so at that point, for me, it's like, okay, this is what I was talking about. If anyone tuned in to one of our previous shows, I was saying this is what I talked about in terms of those extra efforts, making sure you strain. You're going to have to do it a lot more because, again, if you look at the last decade or so of the Pac-12, and so that means, not just the last couple of years, but the overall picture. These were the two teams or programs that are the two most physical ones. And so it's gonna take a lot. I know how depleted Stanford is on defense. I understand all the injuries, but still, you're gonna have to strain against Utah. And they were, and they did. Now, I think you saw in the second half, as like you mentioned, we saw what happened last year. Utah ran from, I think, 400 yards against Stanford here.
Show.
Well, it wasn't even just Tavion Thomas.
Right.
But we saw that and how that worked out, and you started to see more of that in that second half. So that was the one thing. But I will say this: like if I'm Stanford and I'm the coaching staff or I'm any of the players, the one thing I'm going to look at specifically is see how hard we fought and played, and for the first 30 minutes of that game, there is something that they can pull from that.
Yeah, I definitely think that Stanford had positive moments, and I think that's kind of been their thing all season is like there's positive moments. It's just they haven't been able to parlay all of these positive moments into like a complete game. I would argue that the last time Stanford played a complete game was, aside from the last play of the game, was the Oregon State game. They had offense production, they had some defensive stops. The defense kind of fizzled at the end there, but that was like the most complete game. Arizona State was just the Josh Carty show, Playboy Carty.
Carty.
Yeah, but they haven't really had that complete game yet. And so I think they've been a team of halves. And so you either get a good first half and a poor second half because the other team makes adjustments, or you get a poor first half and then Stanford makes adjustments in the second half to kind of combat. But this season's been too little too late most of the time. One thing that I noticed though is I wish this isn't like breaking news by any take, like no need to sound the alarms, but not having a running game, it hurts you. The offense is just so predictable. There was like a little I love the Twitter film breakdown pages, and there was one of all the slow mesh plays that Stanford ran, and it was like Tanner McKee is holding, and the defense is just standing there, like or they blitzed. Like there was no like urgency or worry about the running back. They straight up just blitzed Tanner, or they just dropped back into coverage because they were like, okay, like run the ball, please. Like it's no concern to them. And I mean, going into these last couple of weeks, that's not going to change. We all know that's really, I mean, they're down to Mitch Leager and maybe Ashton Daniels. I like Ashton Daniels in the running back spot more so than the Wildcat quarterback, just because they won't let him throw the ball. I think he's thrown the ball twice or maybe once this year. And so I'd rather just him be back there and run the ball out of the backfield like he's a running back. Obviously, I'm not saying he needs to switch positions to running back, but I'm talking about in terms of when desperate times comes to desperate measures, this would be considered a desperate measures type of time. But yeah, Jordan, I have a question for you though, because
an answer for you.
We're going to move on from the Utah game because I feel like that game we knew what it was, we knew what happened. I will say though, I did ask David Shaw about his job security and hot seat possibility, and did not get an answer. Neither did the other reporter. He was not open to the question. The fan base was, I don't want to say excited about the question. I don't think anyone's ever excited about these instances, but there was definitely some people clamoring for this type of question. So I did ask it. It didn't work out, people. So stop getting on me for not asking these questions. I do ask the hard questions. I promise. It's just if you know he's going to say no comment, then you might as well not waste your time. So moving on, I will probably only ask that question again if it feels necessary. But that's just a little public service announcement to those that keep tweeting at me that I haven't asked the question, because I have. It just got no answer. This week it's the big game, Jordan. The Axis currently resides in Berkeley. Which, by the way, there's a really cool what's called hype video about the big game right now on the Stanford football page. You could find it at All Cardinal as well. I wrote about it. Christian McCaffrey's narrating, and it kind of goes.
They're wearing the throwbacks.
Yeah, goes through the years. They're wearing the throwback unis too. The all white looks real nice. I want to first ask you before we dive into it, Jordan. What is your favorite big game memory? Because you were a part of multiple.
Oh, good question. I think my favorite big game memory would have to be the play that I made in big game. So it was my 5th year, and funny enough, so I'll take everyone through the whole story. First off, my technique on the play was terrible. I think I let 2 offensive linemen go past me to get in. We're able to block the linebacker. So it was one of those things where, you know what? If I don't make this play, I am in trouble.
You're going to be on the sideline the next one.
Well, not even on the sideline, but my linebackers behind me, they're going to have some strong words to tell me. And no, it was so funny because I remember I made the play. It was a tackle for a loss. And at first, I was excited, woo, let's go, yada, yada, all that good stuff. And the quarterback, I think it was Davis Webb at the time, I want to say. He was a transfer, I think, from Texas Tech.
Texas Tech legend.
There you go. So I made the play, and since I was by him, he was like, hey, that was a nice play. And I looked at him, I said, thank you. It was just so funny because, my parents were watching the game. And so when they saw that and they saw that I looked back at him, my mom, she always gives me stuff for this anytime that it looks like I'm talking on TV when I was talking on TV during the game, she would say something. And so my mom, she texted me after the game. Did you say a cuss word to the guy? I was like, no, I really didn't. I told him thank you.
Were you cussing at young Davis Webb?
Yeah, that's what. So no, it was literally. I just said thank you. That's literally all I said to him. But
okay,
so funny that's. And my mom, she always messes with me. But that was just so funny that's what she took from that.
Player comp, personality wise, are you more of a Andrew Luck, or are you more of a Richard Sherman?
Ooh. I'll say Richard Sherman. The reason why I say that is because Richard Sherman, he said this so many times. He isn't someone that's going to start the trash talking.
Okay.
But if you get him going, then it's not going to stop like that. Then I think that's me.
Okay. That's fair. And that one instance was a little Andrew Lucky, just because there's always those NFL films, videos of him getting sacked. He's like, ooh, great hit. Or like, ooh, that was a good tackle.
No, but again, that's what I'm saying. In terms of, because normally I don't say anything to anybody. The only time that I think I ever started trash talk in my college career was Kansas State. So started my 5th year.
Okay.
So this was a game where I had 2 sacks, a safety, another tackle in there too. And there was one play, I remember Kansas State was running to their offensive right, so defense our left. and I make the tackle, and one of their offensive linemen, he was asking as they were going back to huddle up, he's like, "Hey, who's supposed to block 75?" And since I heard the question, I answered. I said, "Nobody." And he was like, "Hey, chill out now. You're nice, but you're not that nice." But that was like one of the only times I ever actually started something. Usually, I'm the type of person that, okay, well, look, if you want to start something with me, I'll make sure I finish it. But
you're a finisher, not you're never the instigator. You're the second guy.
Never. I would say more times than not.
Okay.
More times than not.
I just had to get that out of the way. I feel like we needed a Stanford Cal memory because now we need to talk about what Stanford needs to do to win the game. It is in Berkeley. Nice weather. I don't think it's going to – no rain. Might be a little overcast, but it's going to be 60s. Typical Bay Area weather. Nothing that any of these guys shouldn't be used to. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Cal and Stanford, both 3-7. Unless crazy things happen and they both get to 5-7 or something crazy. Well, obviously both of them can't do that, but unless one of them gets to 5-7 and there's like bowl like fill-ins needed, they're not making a bowl game. But I feel like this is when the craziest games happen. Sometimes is rivals playing with nothing to lose. Also,
absolutely.
I have no statistical proof or facts behind this, but Stanford may have the chance to be one of the first teams to win 2 trophies in a year and not make a bowl game. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the stats.
And the X, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know don't know the stats on that one, but I feel like that could be a thing. I need facts. We need an intern so that way they can look that up. Because there's so many college rivalries out there that have like random trophies, and I just don't want to count them all. But
where's Greg Moraz when we need him?
True.
I'm sure he would have some kind of answer on this.
Greg would know. But yeah, this game's gonna be interesting. Cal just fired 2 coordinators or 2 coaches. I don't think they've released who's gonna be calling the plays on offense. I'm pretty sure I could guess what's gonna happen. It's gonna be turn around, hand the ball to Jaden Ott. And defensively, they've actually struggled against the pass, which I feel like is uncharacteristic for them. They rank somewhere in the 120s in terms of passing defense. They give up a lot of yards. I think they're 11 yards per pass or per completion, and they're giving up a huge chunk of passing yards per game. And so it's kind of ironic because it's like everything that these teams are bad at, the other team is like equally bad at. Aside from Jaden Ott's a really good running back, but their offensive line hasn't been good, so they haven't been able to run. But Stanford's defensive line is like kind of, I mean, they're probably the most improved unit, I would say, but they haven't been very consistent with injuries and all that. And so I feel like this is going to be an ugly game. I'm not going to lie to you, Jordan. I don't feel like this is going to be a clinical football game where you tape it, you clip it off and be like, this is football right here. Like this is ugly football.
No, it's hard because I mean, again, if you're asking me what Stanford has to do, obviously first and foremost, it starts with stop the run.
Yep.
And that's on the defensive front. You stop the run because that's where Cal really can set up everything. They have weapons on the outside, right, with Sturdivant and Hunter, a couple other guys there as well. But their offense starts and ends with Jaden Ott. That's the be all end all. So
2 of their 3 wins, he has over 100 yards.
Exactly. So
every other game they've lost, aside from the other 1 win, which I believe was against UNLV, they've lost, and he hasn't had over 100 rushing yards, and teams have keyed in on him and shut him down.
Yeah. So no, it starts and ends there with him. Now, outside of that, I would say offensively, if you're Stanford, you have to find a way to get in manageable positions on 2nd and 3rd downs. And obviously, I mean, we talked about the slow mesh for a while. Now, the thing for me is the way I look at.
Has that come up before?
Maybe a little bit, but I'll say this. So the way the slow mesh for me, how it can work is just like any other type of play action. Now, even if you're not a good running team, if you show a consistency to the run game, you can still have an effective play action game, right? So even for Stanford, okay, I get it. We know all the injuries that they have, the running back position. But even then, if they still show a true commitment to the run game, some things with the slow mesh will work. Now, what I would like to see is Tanner McKee. And again, I don't know the freedom he has to or not to do this. with some of the slow mesh, as soon as those linebackers start creeping up, those second level defenders start creeping up, that's when I would love to see him get that ball out. Yeah. Right? Like if you think of a traditional RPO, right? Like you see how often sometimes
you're waiting for that trigger
quarterback,
that one guy to move.
Yeah, as soon as that one person moves, boom, ball's out.
Yeah, I
would love to see that with Tanner McKee, and I think that could be the next step for the slow mesh and how it can really work. But no, I think the thing for Stanford is, again, offensively, you have to get ahead of the sticks. Don't get into those third and super long situations. But again, I think the slow mesh, to an extent, it can work, but you have to switch it up just a little bit. And that's what I'm saying in terms of let Tanner have that freedom. Again, he's a good enough quarterback. He's a smart enough quarterback to where you should be able to trust him to make that right read early on. And as soon as that window's open, go ahead, let it fly.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I think this is the game where I would want Tanner, like, just quick passes right away, like out the gate, just slants, outs, whatever, curls, I don't care, comebacks, anything to just get the ball out quickly to people in space. I think we've kind of seen this, and we've talked about it. Tanner's always throwing into contested windows, and I think there's a stat that I sent you the other day where it's like 50% or close to 50% of his throws are into tightly contested windows. And I mean, he can make the throws,
sure,
but I think it's becoming more and more difficult for him and the offense to find success because the defense knows they're going to throw the ball. I will say something about the Utah game that I liked was they weren't making Mitch, read as much. Like they weren't just handing him the ball and like making him read the offensive line. I was enjoying those little pitch outs to the side where he'd kind of kick out 3 yards to the Tanner's right and Tanner would pitch it to him. So that way he's in open space already rather than having to navigate through the line because that could be chaotic in itself. And I think that's kind of, as someone who's not a full-time running back, I think that's probably the hardest part for him, I would say, is navigating through the line, making the right read, because that read, unless you're like a prime Le'Veon Bell or even Bijan Robinson at the college level who can kind of stutter step their way until the gap opens, it's a tough job to figure out where to go. And I think they're putting a lot of pressure on him to make that read. And I like it better when he's out in open space already. So that way, after that, it's just making people miss, which is easier said than done. But I like those odds better than getting past the trenches, the big hog bellies up front. But yeah, I want quick passes to start the game, Mitch in open space, some trick plays. If I don't see at least, I have a quota of 4 trick plays for this game. If it's not hit, it could be at both teams. I don't care. I need 4 total trick plays. That's all I'm saying.
Well, one thing I'm excited about, because you talked about how they did some of those pitches and those tosses. Now, okay, here's the counter to it. If you continue to do those, guess what those second level defenders start doing? They start creeping that way. Now, one thing we also saw in the Utah game was we saw a lot of screens outside the receivers, right? Elijah Higgins, he had a pretty good game based off of plays like that. So now what you can start doing is, okay, let's say, boom, we're going to fake the pitch one way and then turn back around and do a receiver tunnel bubble screen the other way. And obviously Stanford, from the receiver position, they have a really good group of willing blockers. So all of a sudden now, if you let that happen, you might have a good one-on-one in a situation, or maybe 1-on-0 situation with someone like Higgins, who's a big physical and also very fast receiver. Again, I think people forget last year, I think it was a UCLA game when Elijah Higgins had that big touchdown run. He was the second fastest receiver in all of college football behind Danny Gray. And of course, if you're either an SMU fan or a 49ers fan, you know who Danny Gray is and how fast he is. So if you can put him in a situation like that, then that's perfect, right? I mean, again, I know, Kevin, obviously before we've made a lot of comparisons to the two Bay Area teams, right? Stanford and also the 49ers. What's one thing that the 49ers have started to do as of late? They do orbit motion with either Debo or Christian McCaffrey. What does that make the secondary defenders do? They have to go that way. All of a sudden, there's a good 1-on-1 or 1-on-0 match on the other side of the field with someone that can break a tackle and make something happen. but you put those players in that situation. And so I think that for Stanford, now that they put on tape that they can make those tosses and those pitches work, they might have situations these last couple of games of the season, they can put their skill players in very favorable situations.
Yeah. And honestly, I think even going off the screen aspect of it, you could turn a fake screen into all of a sudden someone streaking down the field. Maybe
Yes.
one of the blockers releases and takes off or something crazy like that. I
Absolutely.
will say, I think the biggest, I'm pretty disappointed in the offensive play calling. I'll make that pretty clear. I'll be open with it. I feel like it just doesn't play to their strengths. But I will say, after all the running backs went down, I think my biggest disappointment was the fact that they didn't get Elijah Higgins more involved in the run game, like a Deebo Samuel. I think he has a lot of Deebo Samuel-esque qualities. They're both bigger guys. They're both quick, and they're both good in open space. And I feel like the more you could get people into open space, and that would help the run game. But that's like a whole tangent I have just locked in my heart. Also, shout out to Elijah Higgins, Kai Blue Kelly, and Michael Wilson. They all got invited and accepted to play in the Reese's Senior Bowl, which is a big deal. A lot of Senior Bowl players make it to the NFL.
Yes.
And NFL draft, like notable people have come out of there. Josh Allen, Reggie Wayne, Terrell Owens. The list goes on and on. Von Miller. But yeah, I want to give them a quick shout out. But yeah, I think this game against Cal, establish the pass quickly, please. Don't make it a whole thing where it's like all of a sudden in the second half, that's when it picks up. You need to do it right away. Get Benjamin Urosic some touches, just anything. But you need to slow down Jaden Knott. If you don't slow down Jaden, that's my biggest concern is the rush defense.
Sure.
Jack Plummer doesn't scare me. I don't think he scares many people. No disrespect to him, but Jaden Knott, that's what scares me because Stanford over the last 3 games has given up 303 yards rushing per game, and that's not going to get it done. Especially the best rushing attack over these past 3 games. It wasn't Zach Charbonnet. It wasn't Tavion Thomas and Utah and Jaquindon Jackson. Their 75 running backs that they throw at you. It was Washington State who ranked like 120 something in rushing offense. So slow down the run. If you take away the run, then it's going to – all the pressure goes on to Plummer. And he can make throws. I'm not saying he can't, but they've proven that they can't win by passing. It's not in their repertoire. We'll see how different their offense changes. But like David Shaw said, which was a good point, you could change the offensive play calling, but you're not changing the offense in a week. Like, you're just not. I know these Berkeley and Stanford people are smart, but you guys aren't that smart.
I mean, I'll put it this way, and this is what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily asking for it to change. I just, like I said, I think that, again, for this game coming up, the focal point for Stanford should be similar on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
On defense, you want to stop the run. We talked about how good Jaden Knott is.
Yep.
On offense, you want to establish it. And I'm not saying that. So I think if you're a Stanford fan and if you hear someone say establish the run, you're probably thinking I'm saying
run the ball till they get yards.
Get all the yards, right? Like, obviously, like run power, run some of the zone concepts or whatever the case may be, because it's going to work or make it work. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you have to establish the fact that you are going to be committed to it, because that's how you can build off. Like, that's where the screen game builds off of. That's where the RPO, slow mesh game, that's where that all builds off of. So I just, again, even if it doesn't work, I mean, we could go after this game, we might see a situation where Stanford has under 50, 60 rushing yards. That's not what I'm going to be most concerned about. I'm going to look at rushing attempts.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big thing for me in this game.
Well, the rushing yards is, honestly, I don't know the last time they came close to rushing over 50. For being honest, it's just, I think with the point that you're making, and they rushed for 70 against Washington State, but that was when they rushed 28 times. So,
which is fine though, but that's the key number.
They didn't give up on it, and I think that's what the point they're getting at. And I totally agree, because it's not more so the fact that, like, oh, we need to get 100 yards rushing out of our backup safety. No, it's just you need to show that, yeah, maybe he will run the ball 10 yards this one time, and maybe he will take a toss out to the right or something, but it's got to pose a threat. You know what else needs to pose a threat, Jordan?
What's that?
I need some better picks out of you because I'm posing a threat to sweep this season. I'll just put the record up there. I'm currently 32-13. This past week was a tough week for you. You came in at 30-15. So now we have to do our weekly pick'ems where we'll also kind of talk about each of the games. Don't worry, people. I'm not texting. I'm pulling the games up.
I'm literally right there. It's fine. I'm not
It's
worried at
fine.
all.
It's fine. It's just I have a strong lead. Go. No,
Well, also, again, I mean, how many times have we said in shows before? A lot of the reason why you do is because I just go out on a limb and say, you know what, we can't agree on everything. Because I really remember I had the lead. I could have just had on my lead and been comfortable, but I said, no, I'm going to go out on a venture. I'm going to be a little bold. So,
well, I feel like I'm feeling bold this week. I already have one game I'm feeling bold for. It's actually a first game: Washington State, Arizona.
Okay.
We have the battle of scoring to X's. Washington State's fan base is like extremely salty about Jaden Delora transferring. Yep. I kind of looked into it, didn't do like actual research like with credible sites. I was like looking into why fans were upset, and what I've gathered is that Washington State fans, some of them, think that he gave up in that bowl game loss last year, and then they gave up on the team, and he transferred. Obviously, there's always bad blood when you transfer, but they kind of believe that Jaden Delora wasn't trying his best last season at times. I feel like they're very scorned X's though. I feel like if you're over it, you should be happy with Cam Ward. Just saying.
Sure.
Washington State's favored by 4. I'm going Arizona. Arizona's 2 wins away from a bowl game, and they go Washington State, which is the Jaden Delora return game.
Yeah.
And then they have Arizona State. I think both those games are winnable,
Sure.
and I feel like that'd be a really this program was like a straight up laughing stock last year. They were one of the worst teams in the country. Jed Fish was on the hot seat after like week 4 because they looked so bad. And I don't think people realize how tough of a situation he inherited out there in Tucson. But Arizona's got Jacob Cowing, Jane Delora, T-Mac, as they call him, Tetro McMillan. Love that guy. I think he actually leads the Pac-12 in touchdown catches, and he's just a freshman. So that's huge. But yeah, I'm going Arizona. I like the Wildcats.
So the reason why I'm going to go Washington State is for a few reasons. First and foremost, we talk about the Jaden Delora return game. There's one thing that we have seen out of Jaden Delora a couple of times, and that's when he tries really hard to make a play. Sometimes you get a really good play.
That's concerning.
Sometimes you also get a really bad play. Now, I think it's also going to be heightened this week because he is going against Washington State, and he feels scorned about it. He talked about it in the post-game press conference about how this game is personal for him. So I think he's going to try to force a little too much. Also, this is a really good Washington State defense. I believe in a couple of metrics that are tops in the conference. So I think they're going to take advantage of him trying to press the issue a couple of times in this game. So I'm going Cougars.
Jaden, I know you watch this show weekly and religiously. Please. He's got that. You know how people got that dog in him? He's got that air raid in him. And sometimes you don't have to listen to the air raid instincts. Like, you don't always have to throw it into double coverage downfield. I promise you. Promise you. You don't have to do it. Contrary to belief. But no, I think this game is going to be an underrated shootout. Cam Ward, Jaden Delora.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we're staying in Arizona. We have Oregon State, number 23 Oregon State. Shout out to the Pac-12. 6 teams ranked.
Most in college football.
Most in college football. Most have all the Power 5. I got in a weird Twitter argument yesterday, actually. This guy told me there's no such thing as the Power 5. He said it's the Power 2. And then he went on to say that college football has more parity than people want to let on. And I was like, well, if there's parity.
If there's parity, how's there only a Power 2?
That's what that's what I said.
I mean, let's break it down. I mean, to an extent,
this guy had a blue check too. Not a store bought one. Not a store bought one either.
You can just buy one of those nowadays. So that
I wanted to earn my blue check. I refused to get one out of principle. I wanted my blue check to, like, one day in my career, they're like, you know what? This kid babbles on enough and it kind of matters. And so we're gonna give it to him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, is if mine goes, it goes. I'm not paying $8 a month to keep it.
That's like a Starbucks. I mean,
I can't. I'm not doing that. But I mean, again, the thing for me is in terms of, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. The everyone who loves to rag on the Pac-12, it's just low hanging fruit. It's lazy.
yeah.
And I understand it. Okay, cool. It's easy to be lazy. It's an easy narrative. Usually, if you say it, people are going to agree with it because they don't want to do the research. And again, I've been saying this or something similar ever since Christian McCaffrey was snubbed of the Heisman to Derrick Henry. Now, don't get me wrong. Derrick Henry had a great year, but Christian McCaffrey broke Barry Sanders' all-time purpose record. And everyone's like, well, they count the bowl game. Do you know how many other people have had their bowl games counted for ever since Barry Sanders left Oklahoma State?
Donnell Pumphrey is
yes. So
probably the most important one because he's the rushing king. And I'm pretty sure he hit that mark
in the bowl game.
Yeah,
exactly. For shout out San Diego State.
Yes.
But so that's the thing for me where it's just, this is what people want to do. I mean, even again, with that Heisman campaign, there were voters that even said, I didn't stay up late to watch some of Christian's games. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we don't have anything like TiVo or DVRs or things like that. You can go back and watch it and actually do your job. But no, this is just a thing that people want to do with the Pac-12. I understand it. It is what it is. But I mean, at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves. There are 6 teams that are ranked. And usually, more times than not, even if one of those teams isn't ranked, they usually have a very good argument to be ranked, and they usually are by the next week.
Yep.
So, after a while, it doesn't faze me anymore. It really doesn't. It is. If people want to be mad and be lazy and take their stupid, lazy takes about the Pac-12, be my guest.
Yeah,
but
or the Power 5.
Very good conference.
We got all I tweeted, by the way. This whole tweeter argument was because I tweeted, and I quote, Tulane has great uniforms, great vibes, and are the best group of 5 team in the country. That's all I said. Nothing outlandish. The Green Wave is probably one of the best uniforms, and he just went on this rant about how there's no Power 5, and I was like, sir, no, let's not do this today. Well, I did do it. I did argue with him, but I mean, back to what we came here to do. Oregon State.
I'll go on a rant for that.
Oregon State, Arizona State. I'm not sure who Arizona State's going with at quarterback because it was Trenton. How do you say his last name?
Bourguet.
I was going to say bourgeois, not the bourgeoisie. Bourguet, or is it going to be Emory Jones? Emory came in last week, looked like a stud, but other times Trenton's looked like a stud. So you know the old saying, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. I mean, I feel like that kind of applies here. I feel like they both had their moments, but this is Oregon State's moment. I'm riding the Beavs. The Beavs they hopped back in the rankings. They fell out. The Beavs were the team that you're kind of hinting about that's been in and out, and I got to ride with the Beavers.
No, I do too. And the reason why is I think first and foremost, they're the more physical team. They're the more consistent team. And then also defensively, I think they do a really good job of, we always talk about USC in the Pac-12 when it comes to forcing turnovers. Oregon State's a sneaky turnover forcing team as well. So, I think that's going to be something that's going to go for them. But yeah, I think this is just going to be Oregon State. I think too physical, too good, too well coached.
The thing that's hard about Oregon State too is, and we didn't see it against Stanford because they were trailing. But if they get a lead, they will literally just run the ball down your throats the whole game, and you won't touch the ball for like 7 to 10 minutes at a time. And it's just like you can't do anything. So
they've done that for a while now. Remember last year was BJ Baylor who really led it for them, but now they still have Deshaun Fenwick that's back. He leads a lot of things for them in that category too. So no, I mean you make a really good point with that.
Yeah, and they got Martinez out there who's making plays. And then I think they made the right choice at quarterback. Chance Nolan was just turning the ball over too much.
I agree.
They made the right choice. The other quarterback, he's doing swell. You mentioned USC. They are taking on number 7 USC, by the way. They're in the playoff. They're on the outside looking in terms of playoff. They're taking on their crosstown rival, quote unquote crosstown. It's definitely the furthest crosstown rival within the country. Yes, I think it's like an hour drive from campus to campus. And plus, I don't think UCLA Stadium is not on their campus.
No, far from it.
Even further crosstown rivals. But yeah, I think and this is my only thought process, because I used to like to kind of clown on Dorian Thompson-Robinson for his turnover issues and making costly mistakes. Well, he doesn't do that anymore. And so it'd be lazy if I continue, which I've stopped saying he turns the ball over. I think I issued an apology like 3 weeks ago. But in terms of defenses, both their defenses are bad. So that's null. USC's defense takes the ball away at the highest rate in the country, but UCLA does not turn the ball over. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is actually Let me pull up my trusty stats right here. He is completing 71% of his passes, career high. Which prior to that, his career high was 65. So 7 out of 10 times you are not getting the ball. So defense is bad. I don't think USC is going to turn the ball over. Run game, I got to give the edge to UCLA now. I think, well, even before I was going to give Travis Dye's out. So that's a point there. Austin Jones, this is his time to shine. He's averaging 6 yards a carry for USC. But this is where I lean towards the Trojans. If I'm constructing a team of college football players, the person I start my team with is none other than Caleb Williams. I think he's the best quarterback in the country, probably one of the top 5 players in the country, Heisman candidate. Jordan Addison's out there. I just trust USC's offense more than UCLA's offense, and that's why I'm going with the Trojans.
No, I
just think they're going to outscore them. This is going to be a basketball score.
No, it's going to be back and forth. If you're someone that loves offense, this is the matchup for you.
Yes.
Now, the thing for me why I'm also going to go USC is I think to an extent, now Travis Dye is a good receiving running back.
Okay.
I think Austin Jones is better. And now, obviously, I say that because I've seen Austin Jones since he was at Stanford before I had a chance to really watch him. It isn't like, sometimes there's a situation where you have to replace a starter who is a really good player. And sometimes it's, oh, boy, I don't know about this player. He's a little shaky.
Yeah.
Austin Jones is a proven commodity.
He's a starter. He was a starter.
He's a starter.
The only reason he's not starting is because you could start 2 running backs at a time, but this isn't the triple option.
Right. But the reason why he isn't is because Travis Dye is there. That's literally it. But, we even saw last week for USC how capable even some of the younger backs outside or behind Austin Jones, how capable they are. Plus, you made a really good point, too, about if you had to start a team of some of the players that you would pick, and you talk about Caleb Williams. Well, one of the other players who also might be high on that list is Jordan Addison.
And he's back.
He's back. Yeah, he's going to be back. So that's another part of it too. Plus, again, it's like we said, I don't think this is going to be a game of that many stops. Yep. So I would have to favor a team that I think could force turnovers, which we both agreed USC is right there at the top of the country in terms of turnover rate. So I have to go USC.
Right. And USC with a win, I believe, clinches at least a spot in the Pac-12 championship. Yeah. So
also, I'm excited about this too. The Rose Bowl, at least from what I've heard, is sold out for this game.
It is sold out. Yep.
So that's going to be really cool. I'm happy for that. I'm always going to say I'm happy for these college players when they ever have a chance to be in those environments. And we know how at least you look at the start of the year, UCLA attendance at home was not the best, but it's been increasing ever since the year's been going on and they've been playing better. And again,
cool. The Stanford game was pretty close to full, right. It looked like.
And they're one throw away potentially from DTR. And I'm not blaming him because I really do think in a situation like that, you get so excited. Someone's open. I got to make this play, make the throw. But, how many times have we heard quarterbacks say sometimes the hardest throw to make is the wide open one?
You get excited. You want to show off the arm strength. You got
right. And he had Bobo.
You're like, don't overthrow him.
Right. And he had Bobo wide open in the end zone, and it just was off target. Like they could have won that game. So this really could be a matchup of 9-1 teams with a lot of Pac-12 championship implications. It still does. Like there are 5 teams that are still open in the race for the championship game. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I'm happy that the Rose Bowl sold out. Again, if you've never been to a game at the Rose Bowl, it just has this feel to it. You just know that you're in the granddaddy of them all, in the words of Keith Jackson. So
gotta catch a game there.
Yes, you have to.
I need to. Also, that Arizona game, I think we talked about it last week. it was trappy AF. Like
Yep.
it was Arizona played a great game, and it wasn't really anything. UCLA had a couple things not go their way, but Arizona just played better. And
Yep.
sometimes it'd be like that. But I think me and you both identified that as like this game. If there were to be a game they drop, it would be this one.
Right.
Because Arizona was like the one offense that could kind of keep up with them
Yes.
and like make enough plays to, it was trappy and we knew it. So we both went USC.
Yep.
Then we go to Seattle, where Washington is favored by 30 over Colorado. I'm going to go Washington. I don't really think we don't need to beat a dead horse here. I think Colorado got their one win over Cal, and that was more than I expected, but it's Michael Penix time. We got big Penix energy out here. He's throwing touchdowns per usual. They're going to be rocking the perps. I like Washington. It's the year of the purple team. It's also the year of the first year head coach. Kalen DeVore, Lincoln Riley, Sonny Dykes. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Oh, Dan Lanning. Most of them in the Pac-12, to be honest, but
yeah,
it's the year of the first year head coach.
Yeah, well, we saw a little bit of the Dan Lanning first year jitters in that game last weekend. We'll get to Oregon in a second. I'm going to go Washington as well, but I will say this. I am interested to see how they come out after having such a big win. Either I think it's going to go one of two ways. Either they blow out Colorado, like I think we all expect them to, and they're supposed to, or it's going to be really close. Yep. Like I'm really interested to see how they come out in this game, because I think Washington knows, whether they'll admit it or not, and they won't to the media. They know they're supposed to win this game.
Oh yeah.
Now, so that being said, that it's a human trait that's just so hard to beat.
Plus, the Apple Cup is on the horizon.
And the Apple Cup is also coming up soon, too. That's a good point. So I'm really interested to see how they come out in this game. But, yeah, I'm picking the Huskies.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that because, I mean, you expect them to kind of – you would hope everybody takes every opponent seriously and gives them the same respect. But
it's human nature. You can't
playing at Oregon against number 6 Oregon isn't the same as playing at home against Colorado, who I believe ranks number 2 now in CBS Sports' bottom 25. Stanford did make an appearance. Stanford came in at like number 24. But yeah, bottom 25, not where you want to be.
No.
Here's where you want to be is in Eugene. Oregon. I actually was going to pick Oregon. Chris Hudson made me a little nervous though. He accidentally, me and my friend Sergio, we do a podcast with the Believe Podcast Network. I told him I had 3 questions for Sergio. I was like, 1, who do you think's going to win before the game? And we both agreed it was Oregon. Oregon's hot. 2, does Chris Hudson get yelled at by Dan Lanning after his press conference? And 3, does Chris Hudson get to talk to the media the rest of the year? We both said no. It was the question. The answers that we went were Oregon to win. Yes, Dan Lanning chews them out and probably gives like a little PR training lesson to the team. And then 3, Chris Hudson will not be speaking to the media again, is my guess.
It's a tough one. I'm gonna go Oregon just because I'm really it's hard to say. I think Bo Nix is playing, and obviously that's what I'm making my pick off of, right?
Okay.
Is that Bo Nix
is playing? Healthy Bo Nix, Oregon wins.
Yes. Not even healthy. I'd say available. Because if it's a game time decision, then he's not healthy. Well, then again, at this point of the season, who is healthy?
Right. My favorite saying there's every sport, there's like a certain period. Basketball, it's like, well, it's January. Nobody's healthy now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
right.
It's true, but it's just so crazy. Everybody's like accepted. Like college football, it's like, well, it's the 3rd week in October. Everybody's banged up.
Right. So, no, I'm saying this, and again, if someone wants to say this is a cop-out for the pick, I mean, say what you want, but I'm saying this assuming that Bo Nix is playing. If he is, I'm going Oregon because I really am optimistic. I'm gonna buy in on the stock of Dan Lanning and this program in terms of how they're going to come off of a big loss. Mm-hmm. Honestly, a loss that shouldn't have happened. The reason why I say that, I mean, let's look at not even just how well Washington played, because they played a great game. I mean, the throw that Penix made, you're on the opposite hash, against a cover 2 on the other side of the field, and you find the hole in between the shallow corner and the safety coming over, and you put it in there perfectly. Now, also the safety, I don't know what angle he was taking, but that throw that Penix made for that last touchdown was unbelievable.
It was an angle. It was an angle.
It was an angle, but that throw was unbelievable. Now, that being said, let's look at from the Oregon standpoint. They fumbled at the 1, trying to be a little too cute. You know, they did the little muddle huddle and then came back. They fumbled. There was the onside kick, which that decision I didn't agree with. I also didn't agree with because you had Ty Thompson in at that point in the fourth quarter going for it on 4th and 1.
4th and 1 from your own 30.
From your own 33, I think it was.
Yeah,
so
that was a game-losing call. That was a game-losing call.
There were a lot of decisions there that I just didn't agree with. Also, I mean, one of the biggest plays of the game for Washington, Oregon had a pick. Now, it was a phenomenal play, and I forget the receiver for Washington, but a phenomenal play to steal it from him, which obviously led to a Washington touchdown. But there were so many moments in that game where if you're Oregon, you're looking back at that frustrated because you look at the tape and it's, man, we had all these opportunities to get some, and the outcome should have been different. But, they didn't. So I'm really betting on an angry Oregon team going into this game. If Bo Nix plays again, I want to make sure that's clear. But a big game at home for them. So,
see, I'm going to Utah with the assumption that Bo Nix is not playing.
Sure. Okay.
That was a little Chris Hudson. I don't think he meant to do it either. He was just it was literally the typical player thing of next man up, and he was like, Bo's out, next man up, and everybody gasped, and everybody took to Twitter instantly, and I was like, oh, Chris, no.
Right. Oh, well, so there's another thing with that too. I want to say there's this myth about next man up, and I want to just blow it out the water. Okay.
Oh.
There are only certain situations where next man up actually works. Okay. And I'll tell you certain situations where it does. Let's say, for example, Stanford a few years ago when I was still there, and you have Christian McCaffrey and Bryce Love. All right. Yeah. Now let's say if Christian gets hurt, he can't play in the game. You have Bryce Love. Okay, cool. Next man up works in that situation.
Yes.
But there are so many others. There's a reason why this person is starting over the other person. So no, you can preach it. It sounds good, but
right. Well, they got to show faith that they got to show faith in Ty, even though he's.
And I'm not saying that you don't show faith in Ty, but let's be real here. There's a reason why Bo Nix is a Heisman contender.
Yeah,
and you don't just replace for the most part. Now, some schools it's been a little different. That's why I brought the Stanford situation, right?
But sometimes you have Caleb Williams on the bench.
Well, I mean, Caleb Williams. I mean, there's also look at Ohio State, right, in the past with JT Barrett, Cardale Jones, things like that. Okay, cool. That works. I mean, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa with Alabama. You bring one in, they make the same perfect hole throw against cover 2 against Georgia to win a national championship.
Yep.
But those are the anomalies.
Yeah.
So it isn't next man up all the time. I'm so tired of people saying that because it's not true.
Next man up is a sham unless you're one of the rare teams that have probably the guy who the coach is just loyal to because of age. Jalen Hurts was probably better than Tua when Tua got there. Mm-hmm. But at some point, Nick Saban knew that Tua was the guy. And when the time came, he was like, okay, Tua, it is your turn. And Jalen Hurts lost his job. That next man up is usually used when it's we have belief in this other person, which, I mean, sure you do, but we know it's not true. I'm glad you called that out.
Well, I mean, let's look at it this way too. For this show, let's say if all of a sudden there's an episode that you couldn't do or an episode I can't do, but there's a replacement. Oh, it's next month. It's not going to be the same.
No.
Good luck trying to replace me. Good luck trying to replace you. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel like that's the best comparison because you don't just replace a prime MJ and Pippen, and it just doesn't work like that.
It really doesn't.
Also, I would like to point out back to our pick, Oregon's defense is not very good, and Utah's offense is good at everything, and so I feel like that can kind of come back to bite them. And I have been impressed with Utah throughout the season. They bounced back after the Florida loss, and after the UCLA loss, they've been on a mission. They have to be perfect. They are a long shot to make the playoff. But if things go their way, maybe they could get into consideration if a bunch of teams lose. Same thing with Oregon. But this is a huge game for both of them. They are currently second and third in the Pac-12 rankings. And so this game will kind of, for at least this week, will give us an idea of who will make the Pac-12 championship. And so, until next week, when they again play really good teams that will impact the the Pac-12 championship. Moving on to our final game, which we previewed a little bit earlier, the big game, Jordan, the big game. Tough pick right here. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate to do it. I'm calling the Stanford upset. Yeah, I feel like they could stop the run enough. Maybe they focus on that all week because they know. I think the hard part when you look at their past 3 games, Washington State has Cam Ward, UCLA has DTR, Utah has Cam Rising. A lot of cams out here in the Pac-12.
Yes.
But that's not why I brought this up. They all have elite quarterback play, or they're very good quarterback play at best, at worst. Cal doesn't have that, and that's where Stanford gets beat. Is a team will beat them over the top, and then they will kill them with the run.
Yep.
Cal can't do that. I mean, if they do that, then Stanford's going to lose because that just voids everything I said. If Cal beats you with the pass, you're done. But Stanford needs a win badly. They need the axe back. David Shaw's on the hot seat, whether you don't have to say anything, but I'm putting him on the hot seat. Other sites have put him on the hot seat.
Comes the word on that one for me.
Yeah. Also, the away team has won the last 4 matchups. Yeah. And Stanford is away this year. And so I look for them to continue that trend. Cal is favored by a modest 5 points.
Yeah. So basically 2, because again, it's the home field advantage. So pretty much a toss-up.
Stanford just needs to get into Josh Carty range for offense. Get to a 50-yard field goal, and Josh Carty will keep you in the game. So I'm going Stanford.
So I'm going Stanford, and now I'm about to make my emotional rant / plea for Stanford this week going into the big game. So, Kevin, as you know, played at Stanford for 5 years. We were undefeated, 5-0 in big games.
The Axe never left Palo Alto.
Axe never. Only reason why it left is because we had to bring it to Memorial. I don't even know what the name is for now because I don't think they have the FTX sponsor anymore. So I think it's just Memorial Stadium.
RPFTX.
Yeah. Now, here's the cool thing about it. If you win big game, I'm saying this to some of the 4th-year seniors who might come back for a 5th year, or maybe some of the 3rd-year guys who leave. If you win big game in the main team meeting room, I think it's the Andrew Luck meeting room is what it is. In the back wall, you have your picture. The whole senior class picture will be up there with the Axe for a whole year.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Now, one of the things we talk about, one of Coach Shaw's biggest talking points is about tangible evidence. The reason why we say that, well, we talk about you have the Legends Trophy with Notre Dame. You have the Stanford Axe with big game. There's a Pac-12 championship, and then, of course, whatever bowl game. So you have usually 4 opportunities at minimum that you hope for to have tangible evidence. Well, guess what? For a whole year, there's also your tangible evidence. You get to put your picture on the wall. And now let's also remember this. Last year, Cal came to our house and stormed our field. There's nothing more. Yeah, I mean, so the thing for me, there's nothing in my mind. There's nothing more disrespectful than having your rival come into your own stadium and storm your field.
Yeah, that's like high school basketball stuff.
Oh, it's bad. And so the thing for me is, like, usually I'd say don't remember certain things that happened a year ago. No, I want these guys to remember it. I want people to remember how bad that looked, how bad that felt. And again, I'm calling for all-out effort, strain to the finish, okay? I think that this is going to be a game where I'm going to need the Caillou Blue Kelly come-out game again. I want, like, the game that he had against Drake London last year against USC, that's the Caillou Blue Kelly I'm ready to see, because we've seen Jonathan McGill step up this whole season. Last week, was probably even his best game, and that's saying a lot because he's had some pretty good games. He stacked good games together.
That Notre Dame one stands out too.
Notre Dame one stands out. Of course, we saw the pick that he had in the end zone against Utah. So, and I've seen the energy and the passion that he brings onto the field. I need to see that from everybody.
Yeah,
I need to see it from everybody. So, and also let's tack on another one. It's I think a sold out game. You have an opportunity to play in a sold out stadium in a rivalry game. They're not. And the thing for me is there are not many things better than shutting up the crowd of a rival team on the road. Trust me, I've been there. We've done it before. There are not many better feelings.
Silence is loud.
Do it this week. Get the job done. Bring the axe back home. We're going to sing Hail Stanford Hail, holding up the axe in Berkeley Stadium. Stanford's going to get it done. I'm ready for the game now. Let's go. 2:30 Saturday. I'm ready for it.
2:30 Saturday. Be there, be square. It's going to be a huge game. Like I said, trophies on the line, the axe is on the line. It's going to be a huge week in the Pac-12. We will make sure to have it covered. Yes. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin_2_Borba. And of course, Jordan at Big75Fella. Make sure to follow. Make sure to share this episode. And just make sure to enjoy the college football weekend. We only have 4 more weekends max of college football. Or 1, 2, 3, 5, counting the national championship. It's not really a weekend; it's a Monday, so I was right, but you know what I mean. There's five games left for every team at most. Not every team, but you get the vibe.
Yep.
Enjoy the college football season. Enjoy this episode. We will see you guys next week. Stanford, good luck, and good luck to all these young men playing these college football games. Yes, this has been the Farm Talk Podcast.
And don't forget, it's called the Stanford Axe for a reason. Let's bring it home.
It's red for a reason. It's not blue.
It's the Stanford Axe. It's not the Cal Axe. It's not the Berkeley Axe. It's the Stanford Axe. That's where it belongs. That place right in front of the Hall of Champions in the Arriaga building, that's where it belongs. I look forward to seeing it there the whole year until it's time for big game again next year, and they put it in a secret location.
I've been on campus multiple times. I've yet to see the axe. I'm just saying. I need to see it. I need to see it.
We need it back. It's time.
I need to see it, Jordan. I need to see it.
It's time.
We will see you guys next week.